Hello, welcome to the last chapter of the Odyssey, chapter 14, Peace. Before we start reading, I just want to take us back and I wanted to look at that picture that was in chapter 13 for just a second. And I want you to notice, right, in the background, you see some of that Greek architecture. You see the look of surprise and shock on the suitors' faces as it is revealed that the beggar in disguise all this time, this man that they have treated like a dog or worse than a dog. They've thrown things at him. They've made fun of him. They've insulted him. It turns out the whole time that was Odysseus. So you want to think of that ancient Greek term xenia, and you want to think about how the suitors had been breaking xenia in many ways while being these guests unwanted guests in Penelope's house. But then how they were even more abusive and disrespectful to this code, right? This code of ethics that was so important to Greek culture in the ways that they treated Odysseus. And notice, right, that was all along part of Odysseus's plan, right, was to be able to get into his castle and to see these suitors for himself and to make a determination about what that final retribution really needed to look like. And that is why it was so bloody and awful. But when we get into this chapter and we talk about peace, hopefully you're asking yourself, how does peace come to Ithaca? How can this be possible after Odysseus and Telemachus have slaughtered all of these men? Don't these men have families? Isn't somebody going to be upset? And you would be correct in wondering that, because obviously they do. And these men are the nobles from the surrounding villages and kingdoms surrounding Ithaca in Greece. So there's definitely a concern to be had about what comes next. And what I want you to be thinking about for our upcoming discussion on the end of the epic is, what do you think about the way that the ancient Greek poets finished this story? What do you think about the resolution to what really seems to be another major conflict that has developed here in the falling action? And what do you think of all of that? And then I also want you to think about the recurring violent nature of all of these stories, and what this maybe tells us about humankind and about human nature. Maybe you ask yourself, have we evolved at all in the 3,000 or so years since this story was first told? And some of these bigger, heavier, weightier questions that come. Also know that this final chapter in our version is very short, but that some of these scenes, in particular the scene between Penelope and Odysseus, is much more detailed and extensive in the poetic epic version. And I'm going to be sharing that in another video with you guys, and showing you some of the really powerful poetic language that comes in toward the end of the epic. So stay tuned for that. But without further ado, here is the conclusion to the Odyssey, chapter 14, Peace. Euryclea was laughing as she climbed the stairs. She stood by the queen's bed. Penelope, wake up! It's what you've dreamed of all these years. Odysseus is home. He's home at last, and all of the suitors are dead. Dear old nurse, the gods have made you crazy, said Penelope. Why do you tell me this? Haven't I cried enough? It's all true. Odysseus is home. The stranger who begged in the hall, it's Odysseus. Telemachus knew all about it. He kept it secret so that they could pay back those snakes. Oh, you should have seen him, like a lion beside his kill. Penelope's heart burst with joy. She jumped from the bed. She still could not quite believe it. If the suitors were killed, surely a god had done it. Odysseus was lost, far from Greece. She came down from her high room. She stepped into the hall. There sat Odysseus, leaning against a column. One moment, he seemed to be the man she remembered. The next, all she saw was a pile of rags. Mother, said Telemachus, how can you hold back? Go to him. Child, I'm too full of wonder, Penelope said. I cannot speak to him or even look him in the eyes. If he really is Odysseus, though, we two will know each other. We have secret signs between us that no one else can know. The long, patient Odysseus smiled. Leave your mother here with me, he said to his son. She will know me soon enough. For now, let us think of defending ourselves. We brought down many princes today, and their families will come after us. We must let the people think that Penelope has finally chosen a husband. The house must seem to be preparing for a wedding. The town must not learn of the suitors' deaths until we have slipped away to our lands, and there we will see how Zeus can help us." Now he was left alone with Penelope, and Athena finished her work. She crowned him with beauty. She made him seem like a god before his wife. "Strange woman," said Odysseus, "the gods have made you harder than any woman on earth. What other wife could hold back when her husband has come home to her after 20 years? "Strange man," said Penelope, "I'm not that hard. I'm not surprised at how you've changed, either. You look just like the man who sailed for Troy all those years ago." Then husband and wife held each other and delighted in each other again. She told him about all that had happened at home while he had been gone. He told her about all of his adventures. Night passed, and dawn rose again. While Penelope slept, Athena led Odysseus invisible out of the town. Hermes, the guide, led away the ghosts of the suitors. He brought them to the house of the dead. Agamemnon and Achilles greeted them there. The suitors traded stories with these great heroes. They told how Odysseus and his son had killed them all. Odysseus, meanwhile, had gone to see his father. Laertes threw his arms around his son and cried, "Father Zeus and all the gods still rule." The old man said, "The suitors' families, though, they will come at us in a pack." "Do not fear," said his son. "Let us go to your lodge. Telemachus and my loyal swineherd are there. They are preparing a meal for us." The two went home, talking all the way. Athena stood by, making old Laertes seem young and strong again. As they ate their supper, however, news was spreading through Ithaca. The suitors' families gathered before the palace. They cried out in grief and anger. The father of Antinous was in tears. "All those fighters he led away to Troy, those brave men, they're all dead," he cried. "And now he comes home and kills the best of our princes too? Quick, let's get him before he runs away." They put on their armor and gathered for battle. On Olympus, Athena spoke to Zeus. "Father, what is your plan? Will you make this war go on, or will you bring peace?" "My child," said Zeus, "why ask me? Wasn't this your plan, to have Odysseus come home and take revenge on the suitors? Do as you wish. But here is what I suggest. Let both sides agree that Odysseus be king as long as he lives. Let the killing be wiped from their memories. Let everyone be friends, and let peace come to Ithaca." Down flew Athena. Odysseus and Telemachus were preparing to face an army. The goddess cried out in a voice that stopped all the fighters where they stood. "Stop, you men of Ithaca! Hold back from war. Make peace at once. You, Odysseus, great master of deeds, stop now. Your days of war are over." So the goddess commanded, so all obeyed. So the daughter of Zeus handed down peace for all the years to come. Fini. The end. So what do you think of that resolution? I look forward to talking to you guys about it. I also wanted to bring up something that we've mentioned, and that's maybe this double standard. When it says in the story that Odysseus told her all of his adventures, do you think that means he told her all of them? And what do you think about this man coming home after all this time and expecting his wife to have been faithful to him when he was not to her? So we're going to talk about that in relation to cultural values in our discussion as well. So these are some questions you want to be thinking about for when we meet next. But I hope you enjoyed this reading of the Odyssey. It was my pleasure to read it to you. See you soon.